Do you ever feel like the people who really get successful in life have access to information that you do not? Do you ever feel like you have the desire, the tenacity, the work ethic to get to the highest levels of business, society, wherever? You want to go there. You have the will. You're willing to do the work. But no matter how hard you rake the soil, no matter how hard you push ahead, you just can't seem to make progress. You feel like these people must have access to information that you simply don't have. Well, the truth is, they do. Contrary to popular belief, it's not all about hard work and dedication, although that's incredibly important. It's not just how much effort you're willing to put into the equation or what knowledge you can get out of a book or from a social media post. It boils down to network and information. And ladies and gentlemen, my goal in Power to the People is to bring the information from people that have gotten to the places that you want to go and become the conduit that brings it directly to you. The vessel that gets you the information that will fast track you to the levels of success in the places in society that you want to go. Power to the People is for you. So for our inaugural episode, we went big. We packed up. We flew to Beverly Hills, California, and we decided to compassionately interrogate none other than Tai Lopez, internet mogul, social media sensation, or master of smoke and mirrors? This is the question that society has for this individual, and we sought to find the answers. So, in the spirit of paid to persuade and power to the people, we asked the difficult questions. We didn't hold back. We were ruthlessly authentic, and we got our answers, and much, much more. So welcome to the Power to the People studios, and to our first episode, where we interrogate none other than Tai Lopez.
So if you don't have any money in 2024 or 2025, what you can do is
3 years from now, if I don't have $25 million cash liquid, then I will feel like I failed.
that niche will only make $1 million a month. I'm like, dude, if you make $1 million a month with 30% margins, you can sell that business in 3 or 4 years and retire pretty much forever. I saw somebody who has this teeny audience, 20,000 followers, and they make $300,000 a month.
Jesus.
Net,
real money. What's up, guys? It's Luke here, man of the free, freedom of mind, money, and media, backed by popular demand. You guys sent me enough hate mail to let me know you missed us, and I appreciate that. So I decided to kick it off with a bang. Yeah. We're out here in Beverly Hills talking to none other than In My Garage Man himself, the one and only Tai Lopez.
Thanks for having me on.
Tai, what's up, brother?
Yeah, good to see you.
Let's talk about your come up, so to speak. Okay, so what time frame was In My Garage? Because that was the first big banger.
That
right?
was I started shooting in 2014, and it right at the beginning, January 2015.
Okay,
yeah.
So what's Tai Lopez doing that for? Like, what's the precursor? You were going to do this video because you wanted to X.
So I had already started building my personal brand really in like 2009. I had been on TV in 2007. I was on a show called Millionaire Matchmaker.
Okay.
And so I had been like a personal brand. I had been a big fish in a small pond, Raleigh, North Carolina, before I moved to LA. So I had actually, even though people see 2014 and like, oh, that was just luck and you broke out there, I had been 10 years in the making, learning how to go viral, learning the trigger points of the human brain, the psychology of virality. And so 2014 was just another experiment. Here in my garage, it was funny, the month before was December 2014. And that went viral the next month, January 2015. I remember doing a Lamborghini ad with my friend Jeremy. We went down to Santa Monica, put a mic on. I shot that video. I released it. Complete bomb. I ran it as an ad. I lost $17,000. I remember 17 grand in like 5 days. And I remember thinking, maybe this YouTube ad thing is stupid. I'll just turn it off and go back to what I was doing before. And something in me, my entrepreneurial sixth sense, was like, don't give up so easily. So I kept making ads. They kept losing money. And then January 24th, I released a video, and I was doing one of my first conferences at Roosevelt. And my chief marketing officer, Jeremy, was running the ads in the back. And I was speaking, and I could see him in the back laughing. And it was kind of distracted me. So at the end of my talk, I came and I was like, why are you laughing the whole time I'm doing a talk? He's like, bro, look at these YouTube ad stats. And we had rolled this ad out and we're spending, let's say, 50 to 100,000 a day. And it was like making 50 to 100,000
50 to 100K a day.
Yeah, on ads. We had pushed it up, and it was we would spend 50 and make 110,000 back.
Okay.
Same day. No rebills, no phone team.
What was it pushing to?
It was pushing to 67 steps. It was a video sales landing page. 45. It was a 45-minute landing page video. People always forget about that. People are always like, "Oh, Ty, Here in My Garage was such a good ad," but you have to have the landing page has to be good too.
It's gotta be
so
cohesive.
the landing page was super persuasive. I wrote it myself. You know, copywriting's the most underestimated skill right now. So, and that thing just took off and ran. A good campaign will run for about a year. Then I refreshed it. I had one called Here in My Backyard. That one crushed for almost another year. Then I rolled out SMMA funnel. That one was in some ways, that one ran for a year. Then I did Bitcoin one. I told the story of the guy who bought 2 pizzas with Bitcoin. If he had held on to that Bitcoin instead of buying those 2 pizzas, he would have had at least 50 million.
Is this the guy that was digging through the landfills trying to find
No, that was a
tower?
different guy. There's a lot of stories like that. No, but the famous Bitcoin, back when it was worthless, essentially, he ordered 2 pizzas and they said you can pay with Bitcoin, and he paid the equivalent now of about 50 million plus. So I did a video campaign there that crushed. So I consistently learned how to go viral. But Here in My Garage is when the reason Here in My Garage was like the perfect storm, because if you're early, nobody else was advertising on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Nobody was advertising any kind of training course. So not only was it a persuasive ad, but there was zero competition, because now you can be good at Facebook ads, but you're dealing with at least 500,000 other advertisers the same day. Yeah. Easy. More.
So I want to call this out, man, because I come from rural upbringing. I come from a dad who told me middle management's the way to go. Get a company car, get a 401k, make $100,000 a year. Don't go anywhere near ownership, because when the shit hits the fan, I'm sure you've heard the story. So what I want to call out here is something that has probably become commonplace to you and doesn't even register on the radar anymore. Yeah. But to the people that follow me, they cannot fathom or have a difficult time fathoming, because at the outset of my entrepreneurial journey, especially online, for me to consider the fact that, let me ask you this question: how much money did you lose before you earned $1 leveraging social media ads?
Well, back Here in My Garage, I probably lost 50 or 100,000 on that campaign before I got a profitable one. But yeah, sometimes you can lose $1 million before you make money.
So what people want to know, if I'm watching this show, I want to know, well, Ty, where'd the 50 grand come from? Yes. Consider the guy who's making $15 an hour working at the pizza shop, wanting to become famous and do this. And he's going, well, yeah, it must be nice you got 50 grand to go run ads with. I would have the balls to do it if I had the 50 grand. Where'd you get the 50 grand?
So if you don't have any money, best thing I can say you can do in 2024, 2025, you got to build a service-based business, because you need no capital to start that. Right. If you're selling a product, you need some capital for the most part. People will say, oh, you can do drop shipping with no capital. In general, just trust me on this. you could, if you're going to sell a product, it would be nice to have a little bit of cash, 10, 20, 30 grand set aside. If you're going to sell a service, though, you need nothing except an iPhone and basically the ability to talk. Because what you can do is you can just go to rich people and say, I'll do some service for you in exchange for money. Rich people have money, but they don't have enough time. Poor people have time, but they have no money. It's the perfect match. So when you're poor, you find rich people, which is usually business owners. The wealthiest class of people on earth are business owners, entrepreneurs. You go to them and you say, I'll run your email. I think the best thing now, I launched my new SMMA 9.0 social media marketing agency. And the angle that I would do right now is I'll do your email marketing. Almost every business in the world knows they should have an email newsletter. They should send it out 3 times a week minimum. They don't want to write it. So you come in and use ChatGPT to write it for you. Yeah. You charge each business $1,000 to $2,000 a month. If they want it daily, you charge them, let's say, $2,500. If they want it weekly, you charge them $1,000. If they want it, 3 times a week, somewhere in between. And you just get 8 clients on retainer, and you can sell them other services later. And then ChatGPT does 80% of the work. That's what I would do. Okay. So I would not start out, if I had no money, I would not start out with drop shipping. I would not start out with a product like Here in My Garage. I would start out with a service.
Gotcha. So for the individuals out there who are watching this and saying, okay, well, you're saying I need to go to rich people.
Yes.
Okay. I'm a sales trainer. I train salespeople. One of our monikers or kind of adages in Paid to Persuade is authenticity sells, or the is authenticity sells and confidence closes.
Yes.
I am of the belief, and I think you would agree, feel free to let me know if you don't, that the most effective salespeople in the world are able to convey their point with authenticity and conviction and confidence. You know, I'm curious your opinions on this, because one of the things that I've learned is that they actually studied human beings in heightened emotional states. They put them in a Faraday cage like setup, and they measured the frequencies of individuals in heightened emotional states, and they discovered that there's an actual waveform that they emit that can be measured on scientific equipment. I don't want to go speak out of turn on what type of device, but they could actually study, schools did this, and they studied that human beings emit a waveform. When a human being is speaking authentically and they're talking to somebody compassionately and they're excited and they're speaking in a way that I don't want to say is honest, but the reason I say that is because you take somebody like Elizabeth Holmes, who knew for a fact that she was conveying BS, but was still able to do it with a level of conviction because she was a sociopath and she truly believed what she was saying because she had created her own reality. But when an individual believes in what they're talking about and they're authentic and they're compassionate, that resonates at a 4 times higher waveform volume than anything else that a human being can communicate. So I've
read on, one thing I know, I haven't read that, but people emit pheromones. Like people think pheromones are just like dating. Like a guy emits pheromones and the girl falls in love with you. But men that go to war together are emitting like loyal bonding pheromones. So for sure, that's why I tell people if you ever close big deals, I've closed huge deals, bought big companies, you got to go in person because you can't emit pheromones on Zoom.
Correct.
And I was reading a fascinating book on this. And if you go to Google, you can just see all the science of how you communicate without words and authenticity. Well, humans have a huge BS meter. People will always try to figure out, it's very interesting on the, people will overestimate or be overly cynical, especially in the modern world, because people are getting bombarded with over 10,000 ads a day. Now what's happened, if you went back 50 years ago, people in general believed advertising.
Yes.
Like if Coca-Cola was like cereal, my mom used to say Fruit Loops, like the worst. It used to say on the box, part of your nutritious breakfast. And mothers were like, oh, this is probably part of nutrition. My mom used to say, yeah, it's the dessert part, right? But you can't do that anymore because people are hyper cynical. So right now, even more than ever, you got to focus on authenticity. That's why people, if you look at the political race right now, the 2 candidates, they're both trying to come off as down to earth. Kamala's trying to come off as down to earth. Trump, the 2 vice presidents. And that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole nother
but that's why politicians used to shake hands. They used to say, shake hands and kiss babies. That's because you give off, you called it a wavelength, but vibrations, but I actually think it's actual pheromones.
I think it's both, brother. Because I originally it was a Joe Rogan podcast that spurred this thought. And I actually went down the rabbit hole and I started researching it. And there is evidence of it across different planes, but there's definitely a frequency that we emit, an energy that we emit that you can actually feel from another human being. And there was a reference made at one point. It kind of goes along with when you walk into a room and you can kind of sense that the TV's on because of that very high pitched frequency, along the similar lines. But what just to kind of shift and pivot real quick into sales, when we train salespeople, we don't optimize for words. The first thing that I train a salesperson is you're not here to learn the right thing to say. In fact, you're here to learn the antithesis of that, which is it's not what you say. It's the conversation that you can stimulate out of the other party, which allows you to harvest information that you can then assemble in a way that gets you to a non-objectionable close. One of the banes of my existence right now, I don't know how familiar you are with the landscape of sales training. I know you've iterated with Grant Cardone and Bradley, and are you familiar with like the Andy Elliott's and the Jeremy Miners and these guys? Okay, so every single one of these individuals, and I've met them all, and they're polite and amicable. We'll leave it at that. But what I have discovered is that everybody engages in something that I call talk training. They teach salespeople how to say words to another human being to try to stimulate a sale. And I believe that is fundamentally wrong. I believe that when you train a salesperson, you should be optimizing for 3 things. Number 1, teaching them that another human being is not is not a mystical creature. We are all built the same way on the same foundation. We can be very, very easily disassembled and understood and reverse engineered to sell,
Right.
to be sold to, right? The second thing is that the level of confidence that you emit in a sales conversation is directly relative to your ability to close that deal. And the third is that you're not here to tell them to buy something. Persuasion is not teaching a salesperson to talk somebody into buying something. Persuasion is what we call compassionate interrogation and finding out from another individual what they already plan on doing, because 80 to 90% of all buyers have made a buying decision before they cross the threshold of a retail establishment or enter into a sales conversation. So all my job is, as a salesperson, is to simply ask you some questions, explain to you that I am truly concerned with what you have to say. And the reason you can convey that authentically is because, well, what am I here to do? I'm here to make money.
Right.
That's what I want to do. So there is authenticity there in that if I unearth this information, I'm going to truly appreciate the information. I'm very interested in hearing what you have to say, not because I care whether or not you like a red or a black pickup truck,
Right.
because I care whether or not we're going to convert this into a sale.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, knowing what you know about sales and how important the ability to sell, persuade, influence, close deals, all that is to monetization and success. Do you agree with my assessment or do you disagree?
I agree. The part I agree with the most is that most of human conversation is not the words, for sure. They say, I mean, you heard that growing up, it's like 80% of human communication is nonverbal. I don't think that's true either. It is what comes out of your mouth, but it's not the choice of words. So for example, if I get up in front of a group, if I use big words, which you would think, if you didn't know anything about sales, you'd be like, oh, big words, you'll come off as more of authority, but you close less. So, okay, what's that hinting at? That's hinting at that the words we use don't matter if they don't connect with people. So at the end of the day, a lot of sales, it depends. If you're doing it like retail, let's say I worked at a Verizon store. Someone comes in, like you said, they've already pretty much made a buying decision.
Yeah.
Nowadays, people know if they want an iPhone or an Android. It's not like they're going to walk in, unless it's my grandma, and go, what? There's the phone, right? So in that scenario, the best salesperson is moving the most volume of accessories too, right? So in that case, somebody you're going, oh, you want an iPhone? Great. Let me show you some other stuff. Because I think for salespeople, LTV matters.
Okay.
Lifetime value of a customer. So a lot of salespeople are too short-term minded, right? They're like, how can I close a deal right now?
Agreed.
And get all the commissions now? But a smart salesperson's like, if I sell this person what they want, they have a good experience, they're going to call me back over and over. So I think LTV sales is more important. So in that case, they already know what they're doing. I don't have to do that much. Just don't get in the way and maybe get them to buy some accessories. Now you have a person who comes, let's say, take car dealers. You were bringing up Andy Elliott or other people. If I sold cars, there's the hyper ninja way is to first divide people by personality type. So I use this system I invented called the PACE system. So if I was selling cars, somebody walks in my car dealership, they're assigned to me. I'm going to figure out, is this a P, practical, A, action, S, social person, E, emotional. So if they're practical, and there's certain ways I can figure that out pretty quick, I want to go into how many miles per gallon this gets. I want to go in hardcore details. How many horsepower the car has, blah, blah, what the monthly payment is. If they're an action-based person, those people I can push on a little bit. They like to take action. So that's the guy I would do a little more hardcore sell. So I'd be like, hey, man, you drove all the way down here. Why are you going to make a decision? Why you got to go home? Come on, man. It's like, are you the man of the family? Why you got to go ask your wife? Blah, action. Yep. 25% of people you can push on that way. An S person's social, I'm not even going to talk about cars. If I determine their social, I'm going to talk to them about how many kids they have, what's the favorite vacation spot, and become friends with them. If they're an E person, this is more skeptical, more cynical. I'm gonna soft sell them. I'm even gonna say, take your time. We don't even have to close this. An E is more likely to buy today if I tell them, let's not even reverse psychology. You know what? It's getting close. Why don't you come back another time? There's no pressure. When are you? So my favorite style that I've seen works on online marketing and in person is, they call it psychometrics, knowing someone's personality. That's their psychometric type. That's the most powerful, especially at large dollar amounts. when you're doing some of the sales advice I see online, I'm like, that'll work for $1,000 sale. That'll work for $500 sale.
Right.
Some of the sales advice I see, I'm like, and it also depends who the person is. Like I've closed deals with guys I've been in business with 3 guys on the Forbes list. Those guys, all the rules you're seeing online are now out the door. They're so sophisticated, you can't do objection handling with them. You can't say to him, it's like, well, you want to sign the dotted line, right? He's going to be like, bro, I got to run it by 13 lawyers. So those people, long sales cycle. Let me not even try. Nothing I do. I don't have to do any pheromones, any vibration, nothing. So I think sales varies by complexity, by dollar amount, and by personality.
I don't disagree, but I think there are certain things that are present no matter what, because it doesn't matter if you're dealing with someone who's a billionaire, someone who's worth $50, they're all human beings, right? So what you're talking about, your PACE system, I agree with your emotional assessment and your characterization of personality types, but let's talk about you needing to pass that information along to the 18-year-old kid that just started selling cars and doesn't understand psychology.
Right.
We're talking sales training.
Yes.
So given now that variable,
yes,
are we still going to assess the PACE system and try to get him to determine who's what emotional
Maybe not
type?
on day one for a newbie. Yeah, a newbie needs a script.
Okay, so I disagree.
Okay, let me not say a script. A newbie needs a system.
Okay.
Yes.
Enter, paid to persuade. So what I'm doing is I'm just teasing out what we do, and I'm interested in your perspective on it because I respect what you've done. So what we do, let's talk about tangible assets: cars, washing machines, furniture, so on and so forth. What we do is we teach a salesperson, number one, authenticity, 100%. If they ask you, would you buy that pickup truck? If you wouldn't buy that pickup truck, no, I wouldn't buy that pickup truck.
Right.
But let me explain why. You tow a boat and a camper. I don't have anything to tow. I can't afford the fuel economy of that vehicle, and I don't tow anything. It's not practical, right? Yeah. But that initial knee-jerk answer being completely authentic is incredibly important.
Right.
So we train something called the Big Three. Okay. What brought you here? What is your buying power? And what did you hope to accomplish? Reason being, there are so many situations where a salesperson takes somebody through the entire sales cycle. They show them the product. They go on, if we'll stick with cars, they go on a test drive. They get back and they believe somewhere along the way that they've actually qualified that individual. Yes. Mr. Lopez, do you have good credit? Yeah, I've got good credit. Okay, great. Move on to the next step. Now we, excuse me, we get to brass tacks. I show you payments at 72 months at 6.9% financing, which requires you to be A-tier financing to get. And then I get your credit application. I discover you're a 680. Yeah. You've got a $350 Capital One card that you're maxed out on, that you've made 3 payments on. You've got nothing else on the credit bureau. And the finance guy goes, what are you doing here, bro? Well, they told me they had good credit. Finance guy goes back to the customer, says, you said you had good credit? I do. They pull out their iPhone. Credit Karma says 681 and up is good credit. So I do have good credit. So it requires deeper interrogation if you want to optimize for efficiency, right? So what brought you here today? What is your buying power? What did you hope to accomplish? What brought you here today? You got to solve for 3 things: time, money, and third party. Because when you're selling a tangible asset, what I have deduced is that you can put it down to those core 3 components. Those are the only objectionable traits that a customer can, not traits rather, but objectionable points that they can have moving forward. It costs too much. The payment's too high. That's more than I can afford. I didn't know it cost that much to fuel it up, right? That's money. Then you have time. I need to wait for my daughter to come in from her college vacation or back off a spring break because the car's for her. I only have 20 minutes because I'm on my lunch break. I'd like to wait until the Fed drops interest rates so I can get a little bit lower monthly payment. It's time, right? And then what's the other one? Got to talk to my mechanic, got to talk to the wife, whatever, third party.
Those are the worst.
Yeah, man. So
that's the worst, the last one.
Well, it is. So I want to think about it, and the third party, those are the worst objections. So, and I think you would agree, because those are the ones that require you to push back on their humanity, right? Yes. When you tell me you want to talk to your wife, you love your wife, you respect your wife, you want to bring her into the decision. And I go, oh, Mr. Lopez, who wears the pants in the family? And do you want do you think your wife wants you to be better or worse? And we start doing the logic trap. Well, of course she wants me to be better.
Don't do that one.
100%, bro. But
only on a few, that work on a few people.
But do you not see this all over social media, these one-liner? Like, here's what I see. I see sales trainers, and you can tell that I'm passionate about this because they're hurting people. I see sales trainers showing a 60-second clip of them solving one objection with these one-liner logic trap word tracks. And then once the guy goes, you know what, you're right, I don't need my wife, drops the microphone, the music goes off, cool graphic goes on the screen, he turns around, he walks off the stage. It's like, great, but the payment's still too high. So where do we go from there?
Don't learn sales from reels. from YouTube Shorts. It's more complex than that.
It is 100%.
Yeah.
So now let's talk to the people that may be interested in buying sales training. And let's say, okay, so what should you be on the hunt for? And to that, I say, if the advertisements that you're seeing and the organic postings that you are seeing are from people who are pushing that on you and showing you, this is my best work. Look what I did. Look at the mic drop moment. Look at the 1.2 million views on this bombastic reel. If that's what they're optimizing for, showing you to try to bring you into their ecosystem, that's all they got. That's the best they got. Who out there is doing anything but that? Who in those top 3 or 4 names that we've mentioned, who's not doing that?
Yeah. So I need to follow the sales trainers closer. I don't follow enough to be like, I've seen it. In general, here's the thing about the internet. What goes viral is not always what's the most accurate. What goes viral is not always what's true.
Yeah.
I mean, look at political stuff. So I would say in general, a lot of people are naive, and what people are buying from influencers is their confidence. So the person whose advice you don't like, that's a confident dude, and people are going, I want to buy that guy's sales training. Most humans, it takes a lot of IQ to tell who's really BS and who's not, so when you're talking to the masses, most people are going to make mistakes.
I agree with you. So the
Who
question
has
is,
the most followers online?
the guy that puts up the most controversial,
No, but I'm
polarizing.
saying in general, who has the most? You have the Kardashians combined have 1 billion followers.
Okay.
Sports people have the most. So humans want to be entertained. And so probably, like I said, I don't study the sales trainer world, but I bet you it's the most entertaining guys that are getting the most views. Not necessarily the best sales trainer.
You're exactly right.
Entertaining. And there's a lesson in that, by the way. Be entertaining. Because the world is, it's hard to fight the world. And the whole zeitgeist, the whole vibe of the world, they want to be entertained. We're rich now. World's rich. 100 years ago, average person died of malaria, smallpox, and polio. Humans now, everything you see is an outgrowth of wealth in the world. So social media, if we were all starving to death, nobody would follow the Kardashians. Nobody would care about sports. These are all in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You have the bottom, you have physiological, food, shelter, water. Above that, you have safety. Above that, you have love. So people above that, you start to get into self-actualization, which is buying courses, starting to imagine, what if I was, a better person? So the world, there's almost nobody starving to death, at least in the Western world. There's still people starving to death in Asia and some parts of Africa. But every day, less and less people. So more nonsense is going to go viral for a long time. So you're going to have to prepare yourself for it. Because you're going to be like, why is that person viral? They're entertaining. Entertainment's at the top of the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Yeah,
dude. So I get that 100%. And at the top of Maslow's hierarchy, I thought it was self-discovery and self-realization of dreams.
It depends. There's different Maslow hierarchy of needs. They've actually updated it for the modern world.
Okay.
The way to think about it, the simplest way is stuff you need a lot at the bottom. Stuff not so important at the top. For example, my grandma lived through World War I and World War II. Nobody was that interested in the World Series if they were on the World War I front being shot at. I mean, you were kind of interested.
Yeah. But
now you go to Twitter. Number one thing that trends every single day on Google Trends and Twitter X is sports and music. So these are drugs of wealth, of affluence. So why would people, I saw somebody go, it's not fair. The average school teacher in America makes $50,000 a year. And this is back with Kobe Bryant. They're like, and Kobe Bryant got paid $30 million. And I was going, well, we're now at the wealthy part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Education's lower. Now we want to be entertained, and we'll pay entertainers way more than we'll pay than educators. And you can get mad about that. The only solution, that's what Karl Marx, I'm not a communist, but the founder of communism, Karl Marx, he said the problem with capitalism is going to make people so wealthy, they're going to lose their mind. And when you go on social media now, you're like, this dude was right about one thing. People have lost their mind.
100%, bro. So one thing that you said that I appreciate, if I'm tipping my hand, one of the reasons that I came here was because I am, I'm a very candid individual, right? One of the things that I think is my best quality, and you and I have met recently. You don't know a lot about me, bro. I've robbed a bank. I've went to prison. I spent 10 years addicted to drugs. I've slept in dumpsters. I've been all across the landscape of the world, seen the highs and the lows. One thing that I have learned is that people love drama. People love conflict. People love polarizing conversation. Yeah. They love, and like you said, to be entertained. Yeah. So one of the dilemmas that I'm going through right now is in this latter part of my life where I've straightened out my moral compass, because I used to be the snake oil salesperson, car salesperson. Yeah. I was the drug addict that was snorting oxys in the bathroom and coming out and selling the world, right?
My dad was in prison. Were you in prison for a while?
No, a couple of years. Nothing crazy. Obviously it was 2 years I'd like to have
Where
back.
Was it?
But upstate New York.
Okay.
Yeah, I live in central New York. So ultimately, when I decided to grow my brand and build my training company, this is what my mindset was. My mindset was Grant Cardone had his day, Zig Ziglar, Joe Verdi, these guys had their day. Communication is different nowadays.
Yeah.
AI is coming.
Yeah.
People are going to start behaving differently in the marketplace, and we're seeing it now, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, the sales training needs to change, and it needs to be optimized for human understanding and human interaction. Yeah. Because if you don't understand the behavior of human beings, I mean, we're living in a world that changes by the week, right? Yeah. So if our training is in words and phrases that are going to be outdated and 14 to 21 days, then we're going to need to reinvent our word tracks and our one-liners every month, right? Yeah. But if our training is in the human condition, is in human behavior, and is in what human beings need to feel to be comfortable to transact, well, we can pivot on the fly as a person. Furthermore, if we're trained in a way that makes us believe and makes us absolutely confident that we have intrinsically, that we have the skills needed to be an effective, efficient salesperson, that all we need to do is just optimize for the information of today, we know that we can get that information from the customer, right? So the entire landscape of the marketplace can change, but it doesn't matter. I don't have to be aware of that. All I have to do is be aware of extracting from the customer how they feel about it. Yeah. So that's how I train salespeople. So in this revelation, it's like, okay, well, this is going to be so easy. I'm just going to go to the marketplace. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to show them how wrong the way is that it's being done and how right the way is that we're doing it. And everybody that's going to come into my ecosystem is going to be incredibly successful. And just to give you a control, okay? I have a company that Z-Bart Rust Proofing, okay? They're national, like Subway, for automotive rust proofing and after sale paint protection films, car protection products. The number one franchise of Z-Bart Rust Proofing is in Central New York. Okay. They've been there for 48 years or something like that. I could be off 5 years one way or the other. They're the number one franchise in the country. Their business model is get car dealerships to essentially pimp out their product, sell their rust proofing to the customer when they buy the new car. Offer them a free annual respray and car cleaning when they come back once a year, and then upsell when they arrive back to the door. It's a tremendous model. The guy that does it is a multi-millionaire. We raised, with Paid to Persuade training, we raised his average maintenance ticket by 40%. Number one franchise in the country, 50 years in the making. The guy is the grand poobah of Z-Bar. We raised their average ticket 40%. That, to me, said, wait a minute, there's definitely something here. Now, don't get me wrong. I knew my sales training was good. I'm a car dealer. I own 3 car dealerships. Yeah. I've never been an extremely effective car dealer, okay? Inventory turn is not my strong suit. Marketing is not my forte. What I can do is I can teach people how to close deals. Yeah. So if the neighboring dealership is getting 80 people through the door and I'm getting 60 people through the door, we're closing 50 and he's closing 50%. Right. So he's still selling 10 less units, which is why we've been successful. And why I decided to enter sales training is because I believe that I have a skill and I have an ability to teach that skill that I kind of have a responsibility to the marketplace is how I feel. Yeah. Not to mention that world can monetize very well if you get your hooks in and you get noticed, right? And you break obscurity. So the question I have for the master marketer is, how do I maintain the moral compass? How do I maintain the truth of what I do, but go out there and be controversial and make some noise without the first reaction that I get from most people? And I had this conversation with Brad Lee. You know Brad, you're on Dropping Bombs. Brad's a really good guy. Is go out there and just fire shots, right? Like that was what everybody was telling me to do. And I didn't want to do that because I don't ever like to leverage damaging a relationship to try to build my brand. I don't think it's the right way to go.
You mean he was saying fire shots
at
other people?
No, he wasn't. He actually agreed with me and actually almost So I was told by everybody else to fire shots. I had that conversation with him. Brad, what do you think? Right? He would be a mentor to me, so to speak. And I said, what do you think about that? He's like, no, dude, because then you sacrifice your, like, that's not you.
Right.
You're not that guy. You're just the guy. You're the Messiah, the mentor that's bringing the gospel. You're going to share it with the world. If you start trying to push yourself up off the backs of others, number one, you're going to create enemies with guys that you may need to collaborate with and share stages with at one point. And number two, there's a whole subset of people who aren't going to respect that, and you'll never get your hooks in market to them. So the question is, how do you optimize for the whole crowd, but make enough noise to where you get several million followers on social media?
Well, a couple things. I think in terms of shots fired, like going after people, I've had people do that to me, and I haven't really done it at people. You don't need it. You can get big without attacking people, but you will need to have something that you believe that's a subject of debate.
Okay.
I have a formula called trade. So what do you need now in the modern world? T stands for tribe. You got to create a tribe. Mm-hmm. So I don't think you need everybody. You need a subset of the sales training world that likes you. Or recurring revenue. Make sure you have a business model that you don't just sell. Like I had a guy, and I have a private mentor program. He wanted me to private mentor his wedding photography business. I was like, I hate that business. People don't get married enough.
Right.
Where's the hell's a recurring revenue? And I mean, even if they get divorced, it's like, so I like business model that's recurring. The A stands for, I think you should have an app, like an app. I have a Tai Lopez app. Get people downloading your app. But the D stands, you need to be the subject of debate.
Okay.
Now, so I'll give you an example. Here's who did it really well. Veganism. Or CrossFit. So you're bodybuilding, right? Mm-hmm. So bodybuilders get in debates with CrossFit people because CrossFit people are more about power, quick lifts. And functional strength. Yeah, and bodybuilding guys are like, oh, I'm doing reps and sets. And so CrossFit became huge because of this debate. So, but they weren't so controversial that they were taking shots and saying, oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger, or Lee Haney or Jay Cutler, these guys suck and have no muscle.
Right.
But they were debatable enough that they got the controversy that they needed. And the E in the ecosystem have cross-sell opportunities into other businesses you own. So for you, you're going to have to find, like for me, I'll give you an example. I talk now in 2024, something I believe is not spoken on enough, which is genetics.
Okay.
Now, genetics is very controversial because people automatically think you're talking about racism, but there's very intelligent people who study DNA. So it's not like I'm a fringe guy. I'm bringing out I'm bringing out science about genetics, and it's big time subject to debate. I did a video that said, here's a scientific study that shows if you have face tattoos, you almost guaranteed have high anxiety. That thing went viral, got 6 million views. And there was debates in the comment. People were like, Tai, you know nothing. Who the fuck are you? You're not a psychologist. Even though I showed the
anxious face tattoo people.
Yeah, but a lot of people with tattoos were like, you know what? I got my face tattoo when I was having an anxiety attack. So those kind of subjects are debatable without controversy. If you go full controversy, you say this sales trainer sucks, his stuff is a scam, and I'm the good guy, you'll get a following, but it's dangerous. I agree with Brad because it's kind of like pulling out your gun in real life. If you pull out your gun, somebody may shoot back and they may have a cannon, so it's like, oh, I'm safe. I got the gun. Well, if the other dude has a bazooka, you're a dead man walking. So I don't like that approach. So I agree with Brad, but you will have to find things that are simple to understand that you believe that half the people that follow are going to forward to their friends saying, this guy's an idiot. And half the people are going to forward, this guy's a genius.
So I appreciate that. Could I paraphrase what you're saying when it's essentially assault the principle, not the individual?
Yes, but and it's not even assault a principle. It's find something simple enough that, remember in high school they have like debates? Yeah. So I'll give you a perfect example. This wouldn't be perfect for your niche. Okay. But one is, I was at a dinner. I was just in Europe the other day, and there was me and Frank were eating at a good restaurant, and there was a woman there, and we were like, somehow abortion came up. And she was like, she was pro-abortion. And she was like, well, what do you think? And my answer was complicated, and we got into a debate. But I didn't say, you're the stupidest person I've, but she got it. It was like a 45-minute debate of like, how could you believe it? So I like things that cause people to debate. So I'll give you an example. If I was in the sales space, maybe you make a reel that says, most objection handling is bullshit. Here's what's better. And let people argue over that, one-liner. By the way, another thing to build your personal brand, maximum you should talk about your niche 50% of the time.
Okay.
So you need to have half your posts not be sales stuff. You need to show your grandma. You need to show your lifestyle.
Thank you so much. You just validated an epiphany that I had the other day. So I appreciate that.
What was the epiphany?
The epiphany was, not everybody gives a shit about sales training. No. Not to mention, even the ones that do give a shit about sales training don't give a shit about it all the time like you do.
Yes.
So they want to see you in the gym. They want to see you talking about how you were able to raise your chest 2 inches and your bicep 3 inches.
Exactly.
They want to see you at home with your wife and kids, and that you eat sausage out of the Jimmy Dean Brown and Serve bag just like them every morning. Like real,
this goes to authenticity.
Stuff. Yes.
You were talking about. So if your Instagram is old, like I have a private mentor program. And there's a guy in there, and I looked at his Instagram. It's that guy that just flew from Italy. He was in Denmark with us, Frank. And I looked at his Instagram. It's him on stage. He teaches. He's like the Robert Kiyosaki of Italy.
Okay.
And I said, look, I looked at his Instagram. Every single one is him on stage. I said, is that really who you are authentically? Are you on stage 100% of the time? Because if I go to your Instagram, it appears that you're only on stage. He goes, no, of course not. I'm on. I said, well, then your Instagram's not that authentic.
Mm-hmm.
I said, how often are you on stage? He said, well, 25% of the time. I'm like, well, about 25% of your posts should be you on stage.
So when it comes to the personal content,
yes.
Okay, you're talking to a guy that's 6'4", 280, body builds, ex-felon, where I come from, I was just telling Vadim, the videographer, that where I live, I'm coming through here looking at condos that probably cost $1 million.
Yeah.
My house is about a $1.2 million house. I've got 6,000 square feet, 17 acres, 3 stories.
What city are you in?
Central New York.
Okay. Yeah,
so
you're
imagine,
upstate New York. Yeah.
Bro, it's a whole different world up there, man.
I was up there. Amish. There's some Amish farms and dairy farms.
That's where the best pies are, brother.
Yeah.
Yep. Like we literally will be going down the road. You hear,
yep.
And there's the little wagon going by with and they're pissed because they got to have that orange triangle on the back of their black wagon.
They went to the Supreme Court and won that they don't have to have that.
Really?
Group, yeah.
I didn't
One
know
group
that.
of the most conservative Amish went to the Supreme Court that they don't need the warning triangle, and the U.S. Supreme Court actually they won. But in general, they do use it so you don't die. I lived with Amish for 2 years. I had a horse and buggy.
That fascinates me.
You got to be careful, man. Those cars come up behind you. We used to have ones with a little battery because you don't have full-on modern, and it had a little car battery we'd stick in the horse and buggy, put it, and turn the lights on at night. The good thing about a horse like the Amish, you actually get autonomous buggies, because if your horse knows how to get home, you can almost go to sleep, and that horse will stop at the red lights, look both ways, and go.
Are you serious?
They're much smarter than you think. Yeah.
Wow. I'm cheesing so hard, man, because I was like, I wonder how many points there are going to be where Ty just comes off with some random tidbit of knowledge that's fascinating.
I'm the king of random.
What, dude? What
you want random? You're at the right house.
I'm loving it, bro. Like, just real quick, what is it? When is a guy who's worth millions of bucks, lives the life that you live, goes, you know what? No, stop. Halt the presses. Go strip myself of all my earthly belongings and live like the Amish for 2 years.
I did that before I had any money.
I see.
I was like 20,
okay.
And I went and lived with the Amish. But I still have a farm in the middle of the Amish. Look, I got this in Beverly Hills, but I try to spend 30-40% of the time, because once you start making money, you can get lost. Yeah. I was in Dubai. Some people there are just lost. If you ever find yourself having a Louis Vuitton hat on, jewelry, Louis Vuitton purse, Louis Vuitton. Some places I go, it's like I went to Monaco, and I'm like, this is too much. I like money, but I don't want to make it everything. Yeah. So for me, it's like I spend about a third of my time on my farm, and in my farmhouse is probably 2,000 square feet. I have one farmhouse. I have two farms. One of them is a log house built by the Amish, 1,600 square feet. It's actually my favorite house. It's the cozy. This house is 25,000 square feet. It's not. This is like a hotel.
Yeah.
So this one's great for business, for events, for masterminds. But when I want to feel, and then I was just in where I live in Scandinavia, I've got an apartment there. It's considered one of the nicer ones, but it's 2,000 square feet. And so I don't like to spend more than 1/3 of my life too rich, or you lose touch with reality.
I agree with you.
You know what I mean?
I think that what a lot of people believe, people who are lower on the food chain, so to speak, like myself, as I come and make my way up through. And just to put it in context, my car dealerships are worth about $12.5 million at sale value, right?
Nice.
Reasonably liquid, but not, I can't go spend $1 million and have it not sting me, right? Like I could probably do it if I needed to, but it would certainly be a life-changing activity, right? So that's kind of where I live on the scale. So the individuals that I'm talking to, one of the things I believe in very strictly is don't profess outside your purview. Like don't talk about things. You see all these kids, man, I've been on podcasts recently where guys have invited me on and they've spoken to me, kids that are almost half my age that have spoken to me like they are these gurus and that they're going to bring me into their, what's on the Biscayne, you're going to come into my apartment and I'll buzz you up and I'll have my team bring you up. It's like his buddy, they just got done smoking weed and he comes downstairs with a little tablet that has my name on it. It's like, dude, would you just stop? Come on. You go up in there, they got their two Comma Club awards on the wall. I'm like, whatever, bro, I'd rather just hear you say, hey, dude, didn't I really make it look good?
Yeah.
This is my apartment. Here's the studio. I'm going to respect that so much more. But anyways, what I think people who are trying to make that move from average or normal or middle class or upper middle class to that graduation to entrepreneurship and having, call it becoming a millionaire, whatever cliche, label that you want to put on it. But I think what the majority of them who get it wrong and don't end up getting it, where the disconnect is they're under the impression that they're acquiring money to go buy the things they've always wanted to buy. I believe, and this is kind of reverse engineered, having gotten there and then looking back and realizing what it has done for me, is that I have earned money so I can buy freedom. I made this comment to the videographer when we were coming over that when I travel, I fly first class. When I come in here, I rented an Escalade, right? But never once did I ask him to film them, and he's like, do you want me to get the car? Do you want me to get the whatever, right? And it's like, no, I really don't care about that. Just make sure you get me in Thai. I'd like to remember that moment. Make sure you get the mansion. It's going to be beautiful. My kids are going to want to see what that looks like, right? And I think that the average person is going, no, make sure you get the Escalade emblem. Right. Make sure you get the California license plate. Make sure. And it's so frustrating because I understand why. Because that's what sells, right? That's what gets the attention and the engagement. But for me, it's like, no, why don't you show them that when I went to dinner, I wanted to sit by the window and there was already somebody sitting there. So I offered to pay for their meal and buy their kids dessert and buy the people next to them's meal if they would just vacate that area and let me sit there. Yeah. That's freedom, right? Yeah. Or when I walked into the rock concert and I went up to the usher and I was like, listen, here's $500 cash. Can you just let us sneak down there and get by the stage for a picture for me and my wife because she loves this band? Sure. That's what the money's all about for me. Yeah. I'm sitting here in a collared shirt from Dick's and Wrangler shorts from Walmart with Tai Lopez, right? Yeah. My first thought wasn't make sure I got Louis shoes on and a Prada belt and a Patek watch so Tai Lopez thinks I'm somebody, because I know at 40 years old, having been through hell and prison and everything else, that if I walk out of here and you're like, that's pretty fucking cool. Yeah. He's pretty down to earth, kind of smart for a redneck. That to me is so much more valuable than, and not even that, but Tai Lopez isn't going to go, wow, yeah, he had Tom Ford shorts and a Patek watch. Right. He's definitely worth something, because your bullshit meter goes off and you know better, right? Yeah. So that
doesn't work. I'm not a huge jewelry guy. When I see people too into watches, I'm like, I like fast cars because I feel a little bit like they have a purpose.
I agree. And your Lamborghini is sick, by the way. I've never seen is that an all-wheel drive Lamborghini?
Yeah, those are off-road. But I'm just saying, even on the farm, I have a farm. I have farm trucks, but I also have a Ford Raptor, which is kind of like a Lamborghini of the farm. Mm-hmm. Whereas a watch, I'm like, my iPhone has a watch already on it. You know what I mean? So the thing about material stuff, people are different. I have a psychological test company. It's called 12 Types. And it basically has 3 different tests people can take. And one of them is the 4 motivations. Humans, the 4 M's of motivation. Some people are truly motivated by material things. Some are motivated by mating, love, kids, sex. Some people are motivated by movement, freedom. That's what you're talking about. And the last one is mastery, status. So almost everybody you'll meet is a blend. So there are, I used to think nobody's motivated by, let's say, pure money, and after a while money loses its purpose. But I have a few people I know, the richer they are, they never lose the feeling. Like some people go, after I made my first million, the next million I wasn't as excited. I know people the opposite. I got a business partner friend. This guy makes an extra $1, his happiness goes up. He could have $1 trillion. The next million would feel as good as the first million. Yeah. So there's psychological and genetic variances, and I think some people, sound like you're more like me, where we're more motivated by freedom. I want to have houses in different places. My actual lowest is material things. And when I did my Hair in My Garage video, a lot of people thought I was making it up, because I was like, you know what I like more than material things? Knowledge, which I like. Books. People are always surprised.
It does sound a little prophetic.
I know, but it's funny. When I'm at the airport, people will come up to me. I'm at the bookstore buying 20 books. People will be like, you really like books? Because they realize I'm not showing off. I'm like, dude, I've liked books since I was 2 years old. So I think for you, the way you're going to showcase, you should put that on camera. I paid them $500. Here's the thing.
You don't think that's holier than thou?
You're going to have to walk a very fine line, man, between being obnoxious, like, yo, move out of that table, here's $2,000,
right,
and being boring. And in general,
that's so true.
In general, to build a personal brand, I've learned you can have too little controversy. Okay. So if you only teach, you're not going to be controversial enough, and it'll be hard to get big in any niche. And so you have to, everything takes a little sacrifice. You're going to take some hits.
Agreed.
People are going to be like, this guy's showing how he bribed $500 to go. What a douchebag. If you don't get some douchebag comments, you ain't never going to go viral.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself, do I want virality? Is that important to me? Or do I want to come off as this perfect saint? And so it's a fine line. If anybody knew the exact answers, the exact answer is what Conor McGregor said, get rich and then disappear. Yeah. He said at one point, he's like, get in, get out. So the one thing you could do is what's your number? 10 years from now, what's minimum net worth liquid for you to be happy?
Liquid.
Minimum.
Cash in the bank.
Yeah. Or you could have it within 7 days. So open credit lines.
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years from now. If you have less than this, you're disappointed.
It's difficult for me to put in perspective because I have to start traveling further down the path to see what it takes.
3 years.
$100 million. 3 years from now, if I don't have $25 million cash liquid, then I will feel like I failed.
Okay.
Hey guys, we're on the downward slope here. We're getting towards the end of the podcast. And at this point, hopefully you've noticed that it's pretty compelling when two people can get into deep conversation and ask difficult questions and go back and forth on topics that may not be comfortable, and do so in a way where both parties will walk away shaking hands and smiling. That's the ability to communicate, guys. That's the human condition. And when you master it and you understand why human beings behave the way they do, and you can question deeply and get information that most people can't get, that's what leads you to monetization. If you're in business and you're in sales and you want to know how to ask the types of questions that get you the information you need to close the deal, visit paidtopersuade.com, schedule a meeting. I speak to everybody myself. I hope you're enjoying the show, guys. Back to the pod.
So you want to make money. You're going to have to, if you want to do it with a brand, you're going to have to take some hits.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that because, it's like the whole frequency of authenticity. Like you're being completely blatantly forthcoming and honest right now, because what somebody would say for optimizing for the camera is, well, no, dude, you can do this or do that, or tell me what I want to hear. The reality of it is you're going to have to piss some people off.
Oh, yeah.
The question is, how do you go about pissing them off? And I believe that if you can piss them off in a way that they get pissed off,
but then they go to bed at night and look, exactly what's probably right. You know what I mean? Yes, that's what's in the resin. But remember, you won't get everything. It's more, think of groups. It's more that, let's just say this is a cohort of 1 million people that could conceivably buy your stuff. You're going to have to alienate 400,000 of them.
Bro, it's like science. Like think about science. Yes, there's controls. And then that's right. They call, tolerable variances or negligible differences.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is the data set that these fringe pieces are going
to. But what I'm saying, it might be 400,000 people who don't like him.
Yeah.
In order to get 600,000 that do.
Which is perfectly okay with me as long as the 600,000 that like me get value.
Yeah.
And really truly appreciate and are helped. And the 400,000 that don't like me because they don't like the truth.
Yes. And remember,
we humans, in our own mind, we're naive because we think if we could just share what's in our mind, then people would agree with us. You see this a lot in politics. So like somebody who's a Republican will say, if I could just show a Democrat what I know, for example, if you're soft on crime, people are going to steal a lot. If I could just show, but the reason it's called naive realism is no matter what you do and no matter how accurate you are, you can't get people into your own mind. They'll have some life experience that'll make them go, well, my life experience is my dad was falsely persecuted, arrested by a cop. So I don't agree that we need more cops. And then, so the Democrats will then naively say, let me share something with you. Look at these 100 police brutality videos where cops are called in and they totally, miscarriage of justice. And they go to the Republican's like, they'll watch the same videos and go, still don't agree. We should have more cops. And then he goes, let me show you this video. Here's how all the Walgreens CVS's in Hollywood have been shut down because we got soft on crime. Watch these videos. And then the Democrat watches it. But because humans aren't that logical, the person who grew up and their dad was falsely arrested by a cop or over prosecuted, humans are more animal. They're like, I don't trust cops.
Yeah.
You could show me 1,000 videos. You could show me stats on how having more cops. I don't care. I don't like cops. So you're going to have to realize, because you're a logical guy, you're going to have to realize, like, wait a sec. These million people, they should see and understand that my sales training is better than anybody else's. But maybe you remind them of their dad.
Yeah. And
they're like, you know what? My dad was too mean to me. I just don't like that guy. And so one of the most important things I had to learn is that you can, I'll give you this last story. I actually like this. This is what I had to learn. This is an old Aesop's fable. There's a man, son, donkey, and they're walking to go sell stuff in town. And the son is on the donkey and the father's walking, and some people walk by and go, look at that disrespectful son. He rides the donkey and makes his dad walk. So the son hears it and goes, I feel bad. Son gets off the donkey, puts the dad on. They walk, some people walk by and go, that dad's full grown and strong, man. He's going to make his 12-year-old son walk? This guy's a douchebag. So the dad feels bad. So he gets off the donkey. Neither one's riding the donkey. Some people walk by and go, look at these morons. Father, son, they got a donkey and they're not going to use it? So they both get on top of the donkey. I walk a little further. Some PETA, animal rights people walk by and go, look at this look at this donkey abuse, animal abuse. Father and a son heavy on this little donkey. So they finally arrive on the town and there's a bridge and the father and son are carrying the donkey. But the donkey's a little bit too heavy and they tip and they all fall off the bridge and die. And the moral of the story is, you can't please all the people all the time. And for you to build your brand, no matter how smart your ideas are, no matter how superior they are, no matter how logical, just remember you ain't going to please all the people all the time. So to build your brand, you're going to have to get used to being uncomfortable that these people, they should see that you're right, but they never will. And that takes a while to learn to go to bed with and go, why can't they see what I'm saying?
Bro, that's pretty profound information. And the funniest part about that, and this is what I continue to learn as I go along my journey, is the most profound, factually accurate information is really the most simple.
Yeah.
To sit there and say, well, I'm going to have to learn that human beings are difficult to please.
Yes.
And that in order for me to do this and maximize for, reach, I'm going to have some controversy. All these things that are bricks that need to be laid that I already know.
Yes.
And I'm trying to circumvent them and figure out how to do this one perfect journey that doesn't include all these normal human attributes. When the reality is you come back full circle and now it's taken years to figure out, well, just do what you thought was the way to do it in the first place. And you were trying to reinvent the wheel. Yes. And at the end of the day, just piss some people off, but not so bad that they aren't willing to at least listen. And you know what, just to pivot there, that kind of goes into the whole Howard Stern thing, right? Mm-hmm. People follow Howard Stern because they hate, because they hate Howard Stern. Mm-hmm. People follow Howard Stern because they love Howard Stern.
That's right.
But either way, Howard Stern still has a tremendous following.
He makes the money, and he gets the money.
1,000%. Yeah. And also he attacks everybody relatively equally. You know what I mean? I would say that more in the early part of his career. In the latter part of his career today, I could change the channel just as equally as I could listen to him. But the fact of the matter is he built his brand by being controversial, you know, not showing any particular bias to anybody, but just pissing people off. Yes. And he has that 50-50 rule where half of them love him, half of them hate him, but they all tune into the show. Exactly. And I think that carries over into personal branding because that there's a right way to play that card. Yes. And I think it goes with thoughtful production of content when you know that it's a controversial topic. Yes. You can't just say something that's divisive or polarizing and just expect, okay, this will work because it's going to get me engagement, because it could really piss some people off. Yes. I think there's a fine line to walk there. And I think that's probably the uphill battle that I have is trying to figure out how to do that, how to push into that and be disruptive, but also still maintain the respect of society at large.
Yeah, I think you have to probe the market. So you should write down on paper. I tell people, I gave a seminar on this on building a personal brand. And I said, write down what's something you really believe, authentically believe, that most people would think you're wrong. And I said that there was a lady in the crowd. And I remember she was on the front row and I would say to her, she said, raise her hand. I said, what is it? She goes, well, I've been trying to build my personal brand. It's not working. And so I said, let me ask you again, what's a crazy thing you believe a lot that most people will think you're wrong? And she said, well, Jesus comes and talks to me sometime. I said, explain. She said, yeah, like 4 times in my life, I'll be in my room and Jesus comes down in person and like tells me stuff. I said, I don't know if you're telling me the truth, but you need to record this and make it a reel, because she really believed it. Mm-hmm. And you know what? There's a subset of planet Earth that's going to be like, I love this lady. Yep. And then there's going to be a subset that thinks she's crazy. But like you said with Howard Stern, they're both going to follow her.
That's a fact.
And then she can make the money. And so it's better to be debated. It's better to be controversial than to be ignored. And if you look at people that change the world, I actually did a study, just a personal study. All the historical characters that we think changed the world. Take Einstein for a second. Okay. Einstein, most people say Time magazine said he's the man who changed the world the most in the 1900s. Okay. Well, Albert Einstein didn't believe in monogamy. He told his wife, because he had girlfriends and mistresses on the side, he's like, I don't believe in monogamy is natural for humans. Well, if he was a personal influencer, that would have come out. In the modern world, that wouldn't have been hidden. Mm-hmm. If you're the most well-known person. And he would have had haters. Abraham Lincoln, people say he's the savior of, 1800s. Well, he didn't care that much about slaves till it was good for his political party.
Yeah, that's a fact.
George Washington, So there's no saints out there. There's no saints out there. And we're all just kind of spinning on this big hunk of earth in a universe that's so big we can't even fathom it. So don't be afraid to do some stuff where people go, oh, that guy's not a saint, because ain't nobody a saint. Whoever you think is a saint, trust me, if you got inside their mind, Sigmund Freud used to say the people who appear to have it right the most deep down are repressing things that are probably evil.
Dark and evil.
I see people going, when we were in Denmark, we were having that debate about abortion, and this one woman couldn't believe that Americans would vote for Donald Trump, and she was so into Kamala Harris. And I said, hey, let me just update you on the reality here. Donald Trump done a lot of stuff, not all good. But don't you think Kamala in the same way? It's a 2 peas in a pod. And so you're debating, well, this is the thing they did right. And at the end of the day, there's very few humans. The nicest people I've ever met actually are Amish. Yeah. I would say Amish are the ultimate exception of, there's Amish people I'm like, I'm not sure this guy's ever done anything wrong.
Really?
Oh, man, I've known him since I was little. That's the only group of people I've ever met. So if you're watching this, I'm assuming you're not Amish, because Amish don't have social media. Every one of us besides that, we're just flawed humans out here. So I agree. What I agree a lot, the most that you said, and I agree with a lot of what you said, most of what you said, but authenticity works now. Mm-hmm. It's like for you need to tell this story of like, bro, I was in prison, blah, blah, blah. And like telling that story, there was a time in history, I think it would have hurt you.
I agree.
Pre-social media, where there wasn't so many personal brands, anything wrong would have made you attacked by society. Now there's so many people out there. And everybody wants to follow somebody, that there's a whole group of people are going to be like, I identify with that guy's journey.
So question there, because I had this conversation with Brad, and he explained to me that for social media, and I tend to agree with this, I tend to not, because there's people in both of these places, right? There's a human element in both of these places. He says for social media, people are going to resonate with that whole you were a felon thing, you robbed a bank, because it's sexy, it's entertaining, and it shows experience and wisdom because you've come back from it and found success. However, in the B2B space, you go to a Fortune 500 CEO and you're looking at training his whole staff of salespeople, a 70-person sales team doing $1 billion in sales. He doesn't want to hear that you were a thief who robbed a bank and were a felon. And it's like, I understand the knee-jerk reaction, but I think there's also some societal clout or some social proof that comes along with that guy saying, man, you know, felons are scary. Prison is scary. I don't think I could have made it in prison. And I think it elevates you to a different plane where he's now going, you know what? If he was able to go there and come here, like he didn't get here and he didn't get referred to me by my buddy over here at XYZ company because he screwed him over. If you've got a tremendous track record, I still think that plays to your strength. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there'll be trade-offs. There are going to just be some people that ain't going to like you. I saw a thing on Donald Trump and they did a poll. There's a certain set of Republicans, conservative, older people. They're not going to vote for a felon, period. It just goes against their moral code. In general, it seems like most of America has not lost respect for Donald Trump, even though he's got these 81 indictments or whatever it is. So you're going to have to do trade-offs. I could see scenarios where that part of your story hurts you. For example, you're going to go train a bank. Bank people are probably going to they're a more conservative set of people become bankers. So you're going to have to choose, okay, out of the 1 million potential business owners I can train, do I want to alienate this 12% of them? Because, by the way, if you don't alienate that 12, you're not going to get this other 88. So I think you've got to pick. I don't think, here's the cool thing about the model world. To be rich, you don't have to get everybody to buy from you. The world's, if 8 billion people bought from you, we'd all be overwhelmed. Apple can't even, when they were moving 500 million iPhones, they couldn't even produce them fast enough. So a lot of people go, how can I get everybody to potentially be a customer? I actually think it's better to close the door on people. Close the door, be like, you can't buy. You're not my people. You're not my tribe. I think it's better that you go in and you go, yeah, I tell my story. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I think you need to tell the story of, look, if you're a super goody two-shoes, you're not going to like my style. I'm rough around the edges. Boom. I'm going to tell you like it is. I've been to prison. I've done it. I was like, this, I ain't for you. Close the door. Actually, closing the door gets you, what happens is the other people buy more from you. So let's say out of 1 million people, you're not going to, let's say you could get $1 out of everybody. It's better to split off 60% of them and get $2 from it, because now you made 1.2 million.
Makes sense.
So split people down the middle. I've done that in some ways about as much as anybody. Grant Cardone's done a good job of splitting the crowd. He says these things that I know are going to piss people off, like cash is trash. Well, there's a lot of people who have been trained in finance that are going to just be like, they're going to think he's a clown. But there's more people that resonate with that controversial idea that money should be put to work. Money should be put to work. So I think he's done it well. If you look at people, I read an article about BuzzFeed, why BuzzFeed disappeared. It was like the most viral website, 5 years ago. And they actually concluded they tried to please too many people. And it no longer stood for anything. You need to stand for something, man.
I agree. You
see all these people, and you even see that now. We're in a world of micro influencers. And a micro influencer can be making $12 million, $1 million a month. That's not that micro.
No.
When I was growing up, I remember I found a video of my grandma visiting when I was 18, and I was like, Grandma, I'm broke. Can I borrow $20? So I grew up in a world where like $20 was a lot. Now people are like, oh, that niche will only make $1 million a month. I'm like, dude, if you make $1 million a month with 30% margins, you can sell that business in 3 or 4 years and retire pretty much forever. So $1 million a month is a lot. And almost any niche now, you could be practically selling, vegan, animal right Democrats, and you can make 100 million. You could just segment the market up. You could be like, I'm only selling to Democrats who are also vegans, who also believe in Islam. And you'd be worth 100 mil.
It's a fact, bro.
It's a wacky. That's the only good thing about there being 8 billion people on Earth. There's a lot of bad. I mean, you got higher chance of nuclear war, terrorism, dirty bombs, hackers, all this stuff with 8 billion people. But the global GDP now is $100 trillion. I think of it as a huge river. All you need now is if you don't need a glass to go collect that. You just need a straw. The river's never ending now, and you can pull out of it forever. You can pull $1 million a year, $2 million a year with a micro audience. I saw somebody who has this teeny audience. What do they have? They have 20,000 followers, and they make $300,000 a month.
Jesus.
Net,
real money. That's another thing, man.
20,000.
It's a lot of bread, bro, for somebody that's got
20,000 followers doing that. It's like,
one thing I want to just touch on real quick is this conversation that you see on social media of people talking about their revenue.
Right.
Okay? One of the sales trainers in the space is talking about he built his 9-figure business, his 9-figure like 9 figures, bro.
Right.
Fathom how much money that is, and tell me by training salespeople, how you are getting that much income. Right. Not to mention, how about the fact that we talk about maybe it is a 9-figure business. Okay, let's consider that for a moment. It's a 9-figure business, and you're spending $17 million a month on advertisements to bring in $20 million, right? Like, how marvelous is that?
Right.
How about the guy that's spending a couple $100,000 a month to make $3 million? You know what I mean? Like this whole like culture of let's talk about the biggest number. I've got a 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure business. I watched a guy that actually ran ads for me, not very well. Talk about he was on a podcast, and the guy goes, now, how many businesses have you scaled to 8 figures now? And he goes, we're 57. After yesterday is 58. He's like, man, that's incredible. You scaled 58 businesses to 8 figures. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy owns a business. He owns one media company. What they're talking about is the fact that he went into 58 businesses, built them sales funnels that did 8 figures in revenue. That's not like that verbiage, scale a business to 8. That's not what transpired. Yet the average layman's going, wow, that's incredible. This guy, it just, bro, at what point do you think that breaks? When do you think people start to realize that this is just bullshit?
People know nothing about finance. I mean, look, the net versus gross number, there is truth to a high grossing business can be very valuable even with no profit. So let's say you build a $500 million revenue company and you're doing $1 million in profit. There is a chance you could sell that business for $500 million. Or let's say you build a business $30 million, but it's monthly recurring revenue for a piece of software. The higher the gross number, the more valuable the company. But I agree. Sometimes people say it in a way, but that's also the financial literacy of the world. People don't know the difference between gross and net income, EBITDA. I mean, people grow up. I remember growing up knowing there's not one class in school teaching people any financial literacy. Nothing. It's insane. Even when people come work to me, I'm like, look, there's 13 main financial metrics you need to know for GAAP accounting. I mean, that's the highest level, right? If you want to have a publicly traded company. People don't, if I say, do you know what gross profit is? People are like, gross profit. Do you know what net sales are? Do you know what EBITDA is? Average person has no idea. So some of this, the social media is Wild West, man. Don't get too far down the rabbit hole being like, this Wild West. Remember in the Wild West, everybody was shooting everybody. This is a phase.
Yeah, I agree with you.
In 5 years, because of AI, it's going to start to get cleaned up. You'll see like on Twitter X now, when people post something, they have that community notes. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes, I have.
So you'll start to see AI doing that, which also, though, by the way, is a problem because they're going to actually, the only thing I don't like about community notes, people are going to start community noting things that are true. So it's like, who's the judge of truth.
Let's lean into that. So that's a question I wanted to ask you. So let's stop and think about AI for a minute.
Yeah.
AI is computer learning, right? It's got a data set, which is all of the information on the internet. It uses that information to then go and dictate what is real, what isn't, and make decisions, right? What happens when a year from now, 2 years, 3 years from now, the data set that AI is iterating with is largely false because it was bullshit from all the misinformation and disinformation. Now
Frank,
all of a sudden,
you brought that up. Frank was bringing this up.
Scares the shit out of me, bro.
But AI, they're correcting it with humans. There's a big company, one of the youngest billionaires on earth right now. He owns a company, I think it's called Scale AI. He has 100,000 people trying to manually correct things. AI is going to be, that's a potential problem, what you're bringing up. Also, if AI learns to lie.
Yeah.
Because AI is very persuasive. But on the flip side, I was just talking to a guy today before you were here. There's going to be AI salespeople replacing humans.
There already is.
Yeah. And it's like, so that's why for people that follow you with sales, like my advice is there'll always be room at the top for humans.
I just said that on a podcast yesterday.
So if you're an insanely good sales guy, you're going to have a job.
100%.
But if you're average, you're going to get taken out. Even me, it's like I get average sales guys. If I could replace those average guys with a robot, I don't have to worry about HR. I don't have to worry. I would do it. I wouldn't replace my top people.
Right.
Because human brain is pretty complex.
Yes.
There's things the human brain in terms of creativity. Now, the real thing that is going to happen is there's going to be quantum computers. When quantum computers happen, then I'm not even sure what happens to humans. That's even a bigger deal than AI, but it's a little further away. I mean, Google has a quantum computer, kind of, that solved a math problem that our current computers take 10,000 years to calculate. It calculated it in 20 seconds.
Unbelievable.
So all your passwords will break. Crypto won't work anymore because they'll be able to hack everything.
How does a computer hack crypto when it's blockchain?
It's because it'll be at the quantum level. So if you study quantum mechanics, the classical world, if you jump off this house, we can predict exactly what's going to happen.
Yep.
Gravity. You're going to hit the ground. In the quantum world, very small, we can't, it doesn't make sense what happens. Things can move. For example, quantum entanglement, two particles a light year apart. You change one, the other one changes 1 second before you change this one, so it can anticipate things. So it's almost like a godlike mind. So the idea of quantum computer, which is kind of far from happening maybe, it will be able to almost guess. It won't be regular. It'll happen at a quantum level, which is a whole nother set of laws. For example, the Nobel Prize in 2022 was won for this concept that local realism is false. Meaning, if you look at the moon, you see it. When you look away, the moon disappears. And when you look again, it renders in front of you like a computer. It anticipates you're about to look. Now, Einstein said that was his nightmare, that would be true. But in 2022, the scientists that proved Einstein was wrong, the nightmare is real. But it's only on a small level. So once computers get to calculate at this quantum level, they're going to be able to do things that we think are impossible now. Like right now, you can't break crypto. The key is too long. It would take our modern computers 1,000 years, they think. But a quantum computer might do it in 1 second. So they're working on it. The main problem with quantum computers is that it has to be super cold because heat basically disrupts it. So you have to put it in these to drop it to a almost, I forget. Basically, it's very hard to get things that cold. But one day, everything we think now, I mean, flying to Mars or the moon, if you had told that to somebody in the 1800s, they might have burned you at the stake for being a witch. Now it's like, I saw a space elevator simulation. Have you seen this? Where you'll get in an elevator and go to Mars or the moon, sorry.
A physical elevator?
Yeah, it'll be a side of
along a plane.
They showed a simulation where the Earth's getting smaller. I'll tell you what, I'll be the last one to be on that thing. I'm gonna let everyone else test it for about a decade, and then no fatalities. I'll get on that thing. I was like, somebody said, "What happens if it gets stuck at like the floor?" Remember when I have a big security guy travel with me, and we were in Scandinavia, and he won't get in elevators anymore because he got stuck. Were you there? He decided I was moving from one place to another. and they have smaller elevators in Europe. He's a big dude. He's a little bigger than you. And he decided to move all my weights, dumbbells.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? I'm going to do it all in one trip.
Oh,
So I
geez.
put like 1,000 pounds of weight in the elevator. Then he got stuck in there for about 3 hours, and they didn't speak English. He was on the phone. He's like, and they only spoke Norwegian. And he's like, help me. To this day, he won't get in the elevator. It's pretty funny. So anyway, space
Understandably
elevator.
why.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question, because I know we're getting short on time here. What I try to do is I try to bring value to the little guys out there, the people that want big success. They have a hard time figuring out how to get from this lily pad to that lily pad, right? So one of the things that you preach is mentorship.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have to say that I align with that completely, because when my life started making paradigm shifts and in quantum leaps, not to speak, inaccurately about the quantum world, but like big moves, big jumps. These things happened when I got with people who were where I wanted to be, who had the information that I wanted. Now, understand, to the logical mind, to somebody like you who thinks in terms of logic and very, fact-based thinking, that a young Luke Lunkenheimer didn't understand that it was as simple as just going to the person to get the information, because I grew up in a world where my parents told me, don't go bother the rich guy, right? Like you're not worthy of that. Don't even knock on his door, because you have nothing to offer him, right? Yeah. So what I say to people, and I mentioned this on a podcast last night, is, he asked me, what is your advice for the people out there that are trying to find success? And I said, it's like in the gym, right? You get these guys that come in and they ask the personal trainer, how do I get huge? Oh, you eat tuna fish and chicken and rice, and you do this particular CrossFit workout, and they never grow, right? And then they go back and they look online. They go to forums, they go to bodybuilding.com, they watch YouTube videos. How do I get big, right? And they go out and they source all this information. They never get any progress.
Yes.
All they have to do is go to the meathead. In the gym, the big muscle-bound bastard that they want to look like, and be like, yo, Unga, how do I get that big? Oh, eat red meat, do steroid, lift heavy weight. And it's like, oh, it's that simple. That's simple. No secrets. Go leave me alone, right? And that's exactly how they accomplish that. So imagine how difficult it is to solve that logic when you believe that information is gated by I don't belong there, or I'm not allowed to be there. So the question I have for you, it's like the imposter syndrome thing, right? Yes. So one thing I want to talk about before we leave here today is the prospect of pay to play. Okay. Yes. I paid a significant amount of money to have this conversation with you today. Yeah. Significant in that the average person probably doesn't have it to toss to Tai Lopez to have a 1-hour conversation, right? So, but I can tell you that when the people hear that, they're going to be like, so disenchanted. Like, wait, you mean that Tai didn't call you, Luke, and you guys didn't get together and have this conversation, just a meeting of the minds? People, I don't think, understand how much of the social media landscape is pay to play. For instance, I'm even naive to it. I went and did a podcast yesterday with a guy. I know that he just did a podcast with one of my competitors who's much, he's been at it a lot longer than me. He's much better known than I am. And I was like, did so-and-so pay? He's like, oh, he paid more than you did. And I'm like, well, no kidding, right? But the fact of the matter is, I thought, well, that guy just called him up, and because he had such a strong brand, it was like, hey, you can platform me and I'll, platform you, and we'll just have this nice cohesive relationship. But in reality, it was still pay to play. So percentage-wise, to the people watching, so they can truly grasp it, when you see two individuals on a podcast who are both relatively well-known, how many of those interactions are pay to play?
Yeah, it depends. When the one person's way more well-known than the other, it's more often than you think.
Of course.
Yeah. Eventually people reach a status where people are going to ask you to be on or pay you to be on. Like yourself. Yeah. I'm happy. So I agree with one thing. Most people have limiting beliefs from their childhood, like you just said. Me too.
It's one of the things that we teach in P2P. We don't let you, not to interrupt you, but I think you'll find value here. We don't allow somebody to take the sales training on our online platform until they've taken what's called the 0 to 60 framework, which is the lifestyle and mindset training. And one of the components of that is barriers, where I get on and I explain to them, listen, you're going to have to understand that if your Uncle Ned told you that you're never going to be a millionaire, that's bullshit. You need to relieve yourself of that thought, and you need to come out of your mindset, or you can't even enter the sales training because you're not going to maximize, for your potential. So please go on.
Yeah. So one of those limiting beliefs, for example, in America, all of America's pay to play. Who do you think wins the presidency? Money. How do you think food companies get their high sugar food into schools for 6-year-olds? Money. How do you think pharmaceutical companies get doctors to prescribe their drug over lifestyle? Money.
Mm-hmm.
My mom used to say, if you can't figure something out, money.
Brother, to your point, you're exactly right. And obviously so was your mother. But what I don't think they understand is that the Forbes list, money.
Yeah, money.
All those little stamps that you see on the bottom of somebody's screen when it says, as seen on Inc. 100, ABC News, Fox, money, 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 money. You can go on the internet and say, I want to be relevant. I want social proof. I'm willing to spend 10 grand. Give me these badges. Give me these appearances and write 7 articles on me and push them out into the marketplace. And it happens. Like
the Inc. To be on the Inc. list. It was, I remember first time I was on the Inc. whatever, 500 or 5,000, 3,000, 1,000. Money. You have to have some minimum requirements, but money.
Bro, Mr. Lopez, we see the tremendous programs that you've created. Congratulations on all your success. We'd like to invite you, and you're like, oh shit, you're reading the email. It's like for the small sum of $5,500, you can get this plaque and get this article. It's like unbelievable, bro. But
do you say the same thing? We're here in Hollywood. Do you think the best movies always get in the theaters? No. It's and by the way, I just saw, what's that new movie I didn't like? The one, what's the one, Rick, that we saw? The newest multiverse movie.
Oh, Deadpool Wolverine?
Okay. Is that the best movie ever created? No, but it's in every movie theater. Why? How much money was spent on that movie? It was a $300 million movie to make. So part of when they spend $300 million, at least 30% more goes into marketing and also what I call ethical bribes. Like put us in your theater, put us in when you see things winning awards and it's not that good, you think the Academy Awards doesn't have money? I mean, I have a friend who is from another country, came to America as a teenager. His country was full of bribery and all this stuff. And he came to America and it's like, America's the land where the best competent. And then now he's older and he's like, man, I got to say, I'm disenchanted with America. I'm like, dude, who do you think goes to prison? People who have less money.
Mm-hmm.
You got enough money. Now, if you do something that's so on camera, you might still go to jail. But if you have 5 lawyers that getting paid $2 million, don't forget that a lot of lawyers are friends with the judges. They went to university together.
They go to the same golf
club. They go
to
the same thing. Now, I don't think America is 100% corrupt. I think humans, we know one thing in psychology, humans react to rewards.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody watching might be like, oh, I can't believe people will respond to money. Well, what if somebody offered you, have you seen this person who goes on Instagram and goes up to people, husband and wives,
to go through their phone?
No. Oh. He goes, I'll sleep with your wife. Can I sleep with you? And if they offer high enough money, sometimes the husbands are like, great. Yep. I haven't slept with her in a while to get the money. I forget who a famous person, it wasn't Freud. It was someone famous said, I'm not surprised that people can be bribed. I'm surprised at how low the number is.
Yep. I've heard
So anybody watching who goes, well, I can't believe that this, I'm like, bro, you would respond to it too. Now, going to mentors, I've found mentors for free, but in general, it takes longer. And if you have some money, nobody thinks going to university is unethical. What are you doing? You're paying theoretically smart professors for them to take their time to share what's in their brain. Now, I predicted this in 2012. I said universities are going to go away in the way we think about them. By the way, I was right. 12 years, people gave me a lot of shit back then. 2024, I just saw Harvard has launched free courses.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because the marketplace has changed so much that you can't do the old university way, partly because a lot of professors don't know what they're talking about.
1,000% because they're not experienced.
Yeah,
bro.
community colleges, it's like going to Harvard makes sense. You're going to Harvard to get a piece of paper that will open doors. No, but going to community college, I'm like, bro, this ain't helping you.
You ever read the book How to Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss?
Yeah.
Okay. In that book, it opens with exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
Chris Voss goes to Harvard expecting to learn from the greatest of the great, and he ends up schooling them in the first 5 minutes.
Right.
Why? Because he's been on the goddamn street. He's sweated it out. He's gone through the entire process in real life, and he goes back down there like, Albertson's theory on personal integrity shows that you shouldn't have been able to get why'd you just keep asking me questions? It's like, dude, because that's what you do in real life, and that's how people respond. So to piggyback off what you're saying, I'm not trying to elevate myself to Tai Lopez level, but I told my friends in high school a long time ago that BOCES, the trade school, was going to become more popular than university eventually as time went on. So I think my thinking was along the same lines, that applicable learning and hands-on, there's a word for it. Kinesthetic, kinesthesiology, kinesthetics, hands-on learning would usurp that university thing. But what it took, and this is one thing I was very proud of myself for predicting, it was going to take the massive spread of information. We were going to have to be interconnected in a way where everybody could share every thought at any time, and that's what social media and iPhones and smartphones have done. It's given, like, if I leave here today and 3 months from now you go, you know what? That Luke Lunkenheimer guy, remember that guy that was at our mansion? Dude, he could benefit from this. I can have that information immediately from you, and vice versa. That there, I believe, is the precursor for why universities are failing, because the message is getting out that, hey, how many of you went and got a degree and are making 30 grand a year and are buried in student debt? And a lot of people are going, well, yeah, dude, I hate to admit it, but aren't you? Everybody in Starbucks is going, yeah, me too. Then all of a sudden it's like, man, there's a Starbucks on every college campus. There's some continuity here. Like, what's going on? And then you get the people with the tinfoil hats that start going, it's all a structured conspiracy to keep you down and to keep you in the working class. So then you start introducing that and people go, wait a minute. I may not buy into that completely, but just the prospect that somebody led me down this path pisses me off. So then you get a subset of people that then begin to revolt. Then the rest of society goes, well, I'm jealous of those people having the courage to revolt. And all of a sudden the whole thing's in disarray. So off of that point, how important do you believe it is that people seek education from people who have experience? Something like what I offer, paid to persuade training.
Sure. Anything, especially around business, like if you want to learn history, you just need to find an intellectual guy because nobody's actually been in the 1700s. But if you want to learn business, you want to learn from people who made money.
100%.
And that it becomes less important that you have a PhD and it becomes more important that you made money. So I think it depends on what it is. If I'm trying to learn Egyptian history, university is a great place. Mm-hmm. If I'm trying to learn how to put together an LLC, do my accounting, launch a business, market, create a product, invest my money, that one you really don't need university.
So what it boils down to is if it's something tangible or something that's going on in the here and the now that can be executed upon in real life, learn it from somebody that's doing it. If it's something that's in a book, has happened, requires you to be a historian to learn about it.
Philosophy.
Learn it from the best person that can articulate it the best way. Awesome. Dude, I know we're short on time, and I'm hearing the signal, so I want to help wrap this up. But one question that I have for you, just based on the whole sales training idea. If you put together a team of 100 salespeople right now, and you were not able to train them yourself, and nobody on your team who currently does it could do it, and you had to go out into the marketplace, what would you be looking for, and who would you, if there's somebody you would deploy, who would it be? Or if you had to seek somebody out, what qualities would you be looking for, and what would they need to show you in order to do that?
I mean, one thing I would do is probably test a couple different people.
Thank you.
For my offer. I would be like, try 2 or 3 people. I might try a big name person, but I wouldn't always try the biggest name. I think of it as like launch an experiment. So I'd bring in one guy 1 week, another guy next week, just watch results, man. Sales is easy. It's like, I'd hire the guy who, when I did an experiment, clearly was that sales training collected more cash. That's the cool thing about sales training. It's not like you have to wait 2 years to find out. It's like, this should kick in the first 30 days.
So based upon that information, and thank you for that, because it's perfectly logical, and it feeds into the next point, which is if you go out into the marketplace and there's a sales training company that offers no guarantee of efficacy whatsoever, just tells you we're the best, watch our videos, look at our stuff, look at our reels, we kick ass, take names, we'll come in and we'll change your life. But nobody offers a monetary guarantee. But then there's an outlier that says, listen, we're going to come in and we're going to increase your bottom line at least 10% with our sales team, or by training your sales team, or we don't want your money. How much in volume does that speak versus the other guy?
Yeah, for sure. That's great.
So we are the only sales training company right now that I've found in my research that actually offers that guarantee.
I like that. No, that's good. Guarantees move the needle.
Because we do, bro. It's that good.
That's good.
That was just
Might
my
have to
little
do-
my
might
little
have to
flex
try
right there,
it.
bro.
Might have to try it, Anton.
It's guaranteed, bro. Nothing in life is guaranteed except a guy that knows he can get the job done.
And taxes and death.
100%, bro.
3 things.
Dude, I appreciate you so much.
No, thank you for
much your
coming,
time.
man.
This is a hell of a lot of fun.
So you're headed back to New York now?
Yeah, yep.
Back to Amish country. Get me a pie next time.
Dude,
Let's
I
get
got
an
you.
Amish
100%.
pie.
These guys get me a dress. I'll get you one in a freaking hermetically sealed pack in a week, man.
That's awesome, man.
Cool, dude.